In 1584, England dreamed of a new world, vast, untamed, wild, and waiting to be claimed. Queen Elizabeth sent her boldest men westward, searching for land, for glory, for gold, for empire. They found a narrow island off the coast of what we now call North Carolina. The natives called it Roanoke. The English saw paradise. Both would soon be proven wrong. The first expedition returned with 2 indigenous men, living proof that the New World existed. England was fascinated. Plans were made. Ships were loaded. Volunteers stepped forward into the unknown. In 1587, 115 men, women, and children set sail into complete and total uncertainty. Among them was Eleanor White, 9 months pregnant, sailing toward a land she'd never seen. Their leader was John White, artist, explorer, and a man who would carry guilt forever. On July 22, 1587, they landed on Roanoke Island. The dream of a new world had officially begun. But from the very first day, something felt wrong. The previous fort stood damaged and abandoned. Bones were found near the shoreline. No explanation, no survivors, just silence and scattered ruins. Relations with the local tribes were already broken, poisoned by violence from earlier English expeditions. One colonist, George Hoe, was killed within days, speared while fishing alone in shallow water. The colony was barely alive, and John White knew it desperately needed help from England. The colonists made a desperate decision. Someone had to sail back to England for supplies. They chose John White, their leader, their governor, the man they trusted more than anyone. White refused at first. His daughter was here. His newborn granddaughter had just entered the world. Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. White held her once, then left. He promised to return within months. The colonists watched his ship vanish beyond the horizon. But England had its own crisis. The Spanish Armada was coming. Every ship was needed for war. White begged authorities for passage. He pleaded. He tried to charter any vessel willing to sail. For 3 long years, 3 agonizing years, John White could not return to Roanoke Island. He imagined his daughter. He imagined little Virginia. He imagined the worst with every passing night. Finally, in August 1940, White secured a ship. He was going back. His hands would not stop shaking. The ship approached Roanoke on the evening of August 18th, his granddaughter's Virginia's 3rd birthday. White saw smoke rising from the island. His heart lifted. They were alive. They had to be. But as the boat reached shore, the smoke was just a brush fire. Nobody was there. The settlement was gone, not burned, not destroyed, simply empty, like they had never existed. Grass had grown through the floorboards. Weeds reclaimed the paths. Nature erased every human trace. White searched every corner of the site, calling names into the silence. No answer ever came. Then he found it, carved into a wooden post, one word that would haunt history forever: Croatoan. Before leaving, White had agreed on a signal. A cross carved above would mean they left in danger. There was no cross, just that word, Croatoan, the name of an island and a local tribe. White believed they had moved there willingly. He wanted to sail immediately and find them alive, but a storm was building. The captain refused to risk the ship. They turned back for England. John White never returned to America. He never found his daughter. He never held Virginia again. He died sometime around 1593, carrying that single carved word with him all the way to his grave. 115 people vanished without a trace, and the world had no answer for centuries. But the questions never stopped. What happened on that island? Where did they go? For over 400 years, historians, archaeologists, and adventurers have tried to solve this mystery. The most hopeful theory: they survived. they walked inland and joined the Croatoan tribe voluntarily. Explorers in the early 1600s reported seeing Native Americans with gray eyes and European features. Some tribes told stories of ancestors who could talk from books, a phrase for reading and writing. In 2020, DNA researchers began testing the descendants of the Lumbee people, looking for European markers. Early results were intriguing. Certain genetic patterns suggested possible mixing with European settlers long ago. But DNA alone cannot name names. It cannot tell us if Eleanor White survived, or Little Virginia. A second theory is darker. The colonists tried to sail home themselves on a small boat. Without experienced navigators, without proper supplies, the open Atlantic would have been a death sentence. No wreckage was ever found, but the ocean swallows secrets far more efficiently than any forest. A third theory points to the Powhatan Confederacy, a powerful alliance of tribes further inland. Captain John Smith, founder of Jamestown, was told that the Roanoke colonists had been massacred. The Powhatan chief allegedly admitted to killing settlers who had lived peacefully with a rival tribe. If true, the colonists survived for over 20 years before being caught in someone else's war. 20 years, long enough for children to grow up, long enough for Virginia Dare to become a woman. In 2020, a close re-examination of a 1585 map made by John White himself revealed something extraordinary. Hidden beneath a patch, a paper sticker, was a secret symbol marking an inland fort location. The First Colony Foundation began excavating that site in Bertie County, 60 miles from Roanoke Island. They found European pottery fragments, a sword hilt, and a small metal hook used for clothing. These objects dated to the late 1500s. Someone had been living here, someone from across the ocean.
Was this where the colonists fled? A prearranged meeting point, hidden even on their own governor's map? The excavation continues. Every layer of soil holds the possibility of a name, a face, a story. Nearby, on Hatteras Island, the original Croatoan land, another archaeological team had been digging since 2009. They found English gun parts, a signet ring, and copper objects that could only have come from Europe. The evidence is fragmentary, tantalizing, never quite enough to close the case, but never nothing either. That single carved word, Croatoan, has become one of the most haunting marks in American history. Writers have used it, filmmakers have borrowed it. It appears in horror stories, folklore, and nightmares. But strip away the mythology, and what remains is simply a message left by real, frightened people. They wanted to be found. They left the only clue they could. They believed someone would come. Someone did come, but not in time, not with enough courage to sail through one more storm. John White's failure to return was not cowardice, it was circumstance, it was history, indifferent and cruel. He was one man against a war, against weather, against an empire that had bigger things to protect. And so 115 people, farmers, craftsmen, mothers, and children were left to write their own ending. We don't know what that ending was. That is perhaps the most unbearable part of this entire story. History is full of answers. Roanoke is full of silence. And silence, in the end, speaks loudest.
Jamestown was founded 17 years later in 1607, and it became the first permanent English settlement in America. Its founders knew about Roanoke. They feared repeating it. That fear shaped every decision they made. In a strange way, the lost colonists taught future settlers how to survive through their own failure. Virginia Dare became a legend. Paintings, poems, and novels imagined what she might have looked like grown. Some stories made her a white doe, a magical creature running through the forests of Carolina forever. She was real, a real child, born into an impossible situation, whose fate we will never truly know. The island of Roanoke still exists. You can visit it. Stand where the fort once stood. Listen. There is a theater there now, an outdoor stage where actors perform the story every summer night. Tourists photograph the carved word on a reconstructed post. They smile, they move on. The island stays silent. But somewhere beneath the soil, beneath the roots of those old trees, the truth is still waiting. Every generation asks the same question: what happened to the Roanoke colonists? And every generation wonders. Perhaps they survived longer than anyone imagines, years of adaptation, of learning, of becoming someone new. Perhaps they are the ancestors of people alive today who carry their blood without knowing their names. Perhaps little Virginia Dare grew old. Perhaps she had children. Perhaps her line continues even now. Or perhaps they perished quickly, quietly, without drama, swallowed by a world that was never theirs.
We want the answer to be hopeful. We want them to have made it. We want survival to win. But history does not owe us comfort. It only owes us honesty. And honestly, we simply do not know. What we do know is this: they came, they tried, they left a message meant to be found. That message was found 400 years too late to help them, but not too late to remember. And remembering is not nothing. Remembering is perhaps the only form of rescue still available to us. 1587, 115 people stepped off a ship and into history's longest silence. They had names: Thomas Ellis, Ananias Dare, Rose Payne, Henry Berry, Margaret Lawrence. Real names, real lives. They were not symbols. They were not a mystery to be solved for entertainment. They were human. And somewhere, in the forest, in the soil, in the blood of someone living today, they remain. John White stood on that empty shore and read one word carved into wood. He understood everything and nothing. He turned back. He sailed away. He lived the rest of his life with that word in his chest. Croatoan. A place, a people, a final message from the edge of a world that offered no second chances. We still search. We still dig. We still hold that old map up to the light and look for secrets. Because somewhere in the distance between what happened and what we know, there are still 115 people, still waiting, in whatever way the lost can wait, for someone to finally come and bring them home. The shore is quiet now. The trees have grown tall over whatever truth they witnessed that final night. The word is still there, carved, preserved, replicated, because some messages refuse to be forgotten by time. This is not just an American story. It is a human story about hope, about abandonment, about vanishing, about what we leave behind when we have nothing left to leave, about the courage of ordinary people. One word, one island, 115 souls, still lost, still speaking, still waiting to be found.